Hey everybody, Brandon Charleston here, coming at you with another tutorial and walkthrough of setting up Cohere AI in Clay. Until the Clay team decides to, effectively integrate it within their platform, this is essentially a walkthrough of how to get it working. And so basically, I would walk you through the entire journey on how it works for me and the different use cases here. So let's just go ahead and dive in, and I'll minimize my face. So first and foremost, you're going to want to go to cohere.com. And basically, you're just obviously going to click on the get your API key. That's going to take you to your dashboard. And all you got to do is just click on API keys and get yourself a commercial API key. There is a trial version that you can do, I believe. It's been a while, but they essentially have a free trial API key that you can try it out and at least get it working before you go for the commercial. But I will tell you from my experience that the commercial API is definitely worthwhile, and the rate limits are really good, and I haven't had any issues when it comes to that kind of thing. So what you're going to do, and then of course with billing, hopefully it doesn't release any information, but you can see just from here on this particular day, I did over 11 million tokens, input tokens at that, and I spent $5.78. So it's extremely cost effective to run this. I believe the cost effectiveness is about GPT 3.5, and so you could see, I have $4.28 credits, I believe. But I'm running a ton of, tokens, especially on this particular day where I was running a big table. And so essentially, it's worth it. And so going into that, basically from here, I'm going to put in the comments below. I'm going to put in the description, rather, of the template. So that way you guys can just take it and run with it. And so you can use it for yourself. So first and foremost, there are 3 use cases that I personally have been able to find specifically with Cohere. Is number one is it has a really good large language model. And so even if you just use it as any other AI model like Claude, GPT, Gemini, any of them, obviously there's a lot of them out there, but it's really good and really fast if you just use it as the large language model without any sort of connectors, which I'll talk about here in a second. And so really, if you prompt it with good context and enough information, you're going to get the information that you want. And it's also really good to be able to do simple tasks, I'd say, a sentence or something that's beyond a JavaScript formula to deduce or interpolate some sort of data as far as what you've enriched in the past via Clay. Then the learning language model alone is going to be effective for you, and it's worth a try, especially at cost, right? So with this one, I removed my API key, so there it is. All right, cool. Really, you have your post, you have the endpoint, and then I have the simple body, which is just the AI prompt, right? And then you have your information right here, your headers, and then you'll just need to get your commercial API key and then put that in there. And then what I recommend you do, just so you're not putting in every time your API key, just save that as a current template within your templates there. And so that way all you got to do is just make a column with what your prompt is, and you'll be able to just run it straight up. So all I do is this is basically one right here, but all you got to do is just add a column and then do a text column and then name it, AI prompt. And then you just got to go here, edit column, and say, you are this and that. Type in your prompt with all your dynamic variables in there. And then that column will essentially run as your prompt. And so you can see, what do you know about Tesla? What do you know about SpaceX? What do you know about Top of Funnel, which is my agency? So it'll, run through the entire thing there. And it's really good. I've used it and it's pretty quick. In fact, I've done whole tables only with Cohere just to experiment to see how far I can go. And it's never disappointed, at least thus far. So anyway, that is use case number 1, is just the LLM alone without any sort of connectors or anything like that. So it's very competitive with, Gemini, Claude, GPT 3.5, things like that. So second use case, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. This gave me an error because there's too much Oh, well, there you go. Okay. I've modified my template. So, so I'm going to skip ahead right here just because I want to talk about this third. Cohere has what you call a connector. And so essentially it is kind of like Claygent, where you are able to connect outside of the internal LLM. You can do connectors, and Cohere originally, it is designed for enterprises to be able to use their LLM to be able to ground it essentially to, say processes, documents, anything like that. Cohere, Notion actually uses Cohere's LLM. There's a lot of other enterprises that use their language model to interpolate and process internal confidential data so that way it doesn't hallucinate and it's factual data, right? So the use case here is that you can essentially connect it with the web search connector. That's what they were going to call it. And so essentially the LLM is connecting to the web, which is kind of like a Claygent in a way. It basically is a sidekick. And you can essentially send it on a wild goose chase to search the internet for you and do research, right? Now, the pro here is it can be connected to the internet via API. So that's a good thing. The con is, though, you want to make sure you give the web search or the large language model enough context as to what you're searching for, and you want to define the output of what you want. And so the reason I say that is because it's all about input output with these large language models. Doesn't matter what you use, it's all about input output. The more input and parameters you can give it, then the better the output's going to be. And actually that every LLM rates cost input and output tokens, and so the more you can define your output, the more cost effective it's going to be, the less noise and the less BS outputs you're going to get, right? And so when you're sending this on a wild goose chase, to do web search for you, you want to give it as much context as possible, so that way at scale you're not getting false information and reaching out to Joe at Apple, saying congratulations on your new role if he's been there for 20 years. I don't know. I'm just throwing random shit out there. But essentially, you need to prompt it to research the internet and help it out and tell it exactly what you want. And I would say experiment with it so that way you can really understand, and your prompt needs to be defined to know exactly what you're going for. So thirdly, and this is actually one I talked to Josh about because I found it more recently through their API docs, is you can essentially use Cohere, the large language models, connect it to the web connector, but then what you're actually technically grounding it, as they would say, to one particular website. And so if you use their chatbot, which is called Coral, you can actually experiment with this a little bit, and I recommend you do that. And so if you sign up for their platform, Coral is really good. It's super fast, by the way, at least in my experience. But you'll see three different options. You'll have Coral, as it is, which is the large language model. And then you have a web connector. And then if inside the web connector, you'll be able to put in an optional URL, which means it grounds it to that one URL. So essentially what you're doing is you're telling Cohere to go to that website, right? And so that is the third use case, and for me is wildly effective because it's essentially kind of like a Claygent saying, go to this website, give me details, and it works really well. So Josh Whitfield, he has a really good prompt that I'm shouting out to him about. But essentially, he's basically, you're giving the LLM a role, which you should always do anyway. You're essentially saying what you are, because you're talking to, what I like to think of it as the smartest, most genius person in the room, and they have no idea what you want from them, right? Imagine you're walking up to the most genius person in a bar and you come up to him and say, hey, tell me about 2 + 2. You could do that. But if you're really trying to say, hey, you are this, you're a cold email expert, or you're a journalist, or you are an expert, whatever, this is the context, these are the parameters, this is my output, right? Or this is the output I want. And so if you define that role, and then I basically say, look at company name, and then what I'm doing is I'm actually putting it on a connector Sorry, wrong one here. So you can see through the body here, I've done message, AI prompt. I'm doing the connector of web search, but then I'm actually narrowing it down to one website. And so the unique use case here, and I'm just going to compare them, but if you go to specifically the LLM only, if you click in, and if it says 200, that means it's a good thing, right? It means you got a successful response. So if you do the large language model only, you're going to see the response. And if you click down these, you can see the tokens. You can see the chat history, which is not really relevant. It's just, obviously one-offs. And then it's complete, right? So you're just going to get the large language model only. But then if you go to the website and I click here, it says the response. And then it actually gives you citations. So if you click into here, a lot of this stuff, what I found is not really relevant to what you're looking for. These are just the citations, because what Cohere is designed to do is to output a response that is backed by facts, right? If it's largely right or largely wrong, it's going to tell you this is why. So it just gives you the citations back with the API call. But the other part you're going to want to go into is the documents, and it'll show you where it went to. So you can see this, it went to globaldata.com, and it gave me all this information, which can be definitely appended or processed. And then you have another one, Reuters. I looked up Tesla information, and then you can see here web search, Investopia. And so it really just went through, did a little bit of research, and then teslaabout.com. So it gave me a good amount of context, but essentially what I did is I pointed it to a specific website, and you can actually point this to LinkedIn profiles as well. And so what I would recommend you do also to put in the prompt, and this is something I didn't put in this particular one, is to just say, visit this one website, do not visit any other website. So again, the context and what direction you want to give it is largely what you want to do, right? And then Cohere as an AI web connector, same thing, but you're essentially setting on the wild goose chase. It's kind of like the Clayagent, like I was mentioning earlier, where you want to give it parameters and define exactly what you're looking for. And so these are the three different use cases, for using just one large language model, Cohere. It's super cost effective. It's definitely a good model to add to your repertoire, right? And so I'm going to release this as a template just for Cohere alone for these different use cases. And again, as I mentioned, I would recommend you set up your API key, and then go ahead and import these templates here, put in your key there, and then save it as a current config. What I like to do is just name it Cohere AI LLM only, and then LLM plus website, and then just the web search. So that way you can decide which one you want to go. So anyway, I hope this is very helpful. Reach out if you have any questions. Again, Clay is one of the best platforms out there, and of course Cohere has definitely been beneficial to me, Josh, and a number of other Clay experts. And so as always, hope all is well, and happy clay making. Take care and have a great weekend.